So if you're thinking about moving to San Diego, gotta let you know, it's not all good. Today we're gonna dive into the pros and cons from two lifelong locals here. We're talking San Diego, not, I know, he's got an SF shirt on, but it should be an SD shirt. You blew it! Nonetheless, we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna jump into the cons first, because maybe some of those will decide for you. Maybe you're just like, no, I'm out. We've had some people actually make decisions based on some of these cons, but we're also gonna cover the pros too and let you know some of the things that we dig about living right here in San Diego.
The first con is the San Diego bubble. So San Diego as a whole has a reputation for being a little bit isolated, a little bit slow paced, and just a little bit, not as exciting as some of the other cities around us here in California. And this is a con for a lot of people, but tends to be a pro for people that are a little bit, although that a little more laid back. And that's, our reputation is San Diego is a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more laid back, a little less fast paced. And that's just kind of how this city is.
And one other thing about the bubble, even within San Diego County is big, where you have North County, South Bay, you have East County, you have like the downtown central area. Even if you're living in one of those areas, you're kind of in your own little bubble there. So where we live up in North County, we have friends that live down in Ocean Beach. We're honestly not getting down there too much, even though it's probably a 35-minute drive or so. You just kind of tend to stay where you're living. So you're not going too far outside, even going out to dinner, even going out to, new parks and new hikes. I've been exploring some new hikes, so I've been going different areas around San Diego. But for the most part, you're gonna live in your bubble. And growing up here, I'm trying to think of, I could probably count on my hand how many times I've been to LA. It's 2.5 hours away. It's a huge city, but we living in San Diego don't really go there. Now, Orange County, I've been there a handful more times, but you guys kind of stay within the San Diego bubble once you do move here. The second con, and you guys are gonna be like, this isn't a con, especially if you're moving here for this, but it's the San Diego climate and what locals really experience here. Now, one of the biggest things, and this is one thing that, especially if you're moving out here, it's important to know which areas are a little more prone to this, especially if that's something you want to avoid. So it's always a good idea to reach out to us. We could kind of dive into the map and show you what specific areas might work. But wildfires, over the past few years, it has become not only a little bit more expensive, but a little more difficult to get those fire insurance policies. If you're getting a loan on your house, you're gonna have to get an insurance policy that includes fire. Over the past few years, a few of the bigger companies, State Farm, was it Farmers?
Yep.
Some other big ones. I think, is Allstate still here? We don't know. We'll check that out. But nonetheless, some of the bigger companies have left. So it's been put in the pool of who's actually offering insurance a little bit smaller. So when you're going to get insurance, it's going to cost a little bit more. Now, California is working with State Farm and seeing if they can come back to the state. Obviously, if they do come back, the policies are going to be much more expensive. That's one of the reasons that they did leave. They just weren't able to, there's like a cap on what insurance companies can charge. So they weren't able to offset what it would cover for wildfire risk.
Obviously, with the LA fires over the past month or so, this has become a huge topic, not just on the insurance side, but is it safe to move to Southern California? Is it safe to live in LA or San Diego, or is wildfires going to be something that is on your mind all the time? And the answer is really no, especially here in San Diego. Our local power company here, SDG&E, has done a ton for infrastructure-wise with automatic blackouts, with metal poles, some other things like that to kind of help stop these wildfires from starting once you have those Santa Ana winds that come up a few times a year, every year. But as a whole, San Diego has not had a ton of fires, a ton of major fires, especially as big as the one that just happened in LA, or those that happened up in LA. In 2007, we had a pretty good sized fire. In 2003, we had a pretty good sized fire. But a lot of these all of them started with Santa Ana winds. That is the main cause. That's wind from the mountains and desert coming towards the coast, as opposed to winds coming from the coast going out to the desert and mountains, which is what is normally the case here.
And real quick on that, so even that last Santa Ana's that came through where LA saw a ton of really big fires that just spread super quick, we did see a few pop up right here in San Diego. I remember I was flying back, it was Martin Luther King Day. I flew back from Vegas. We were going up the 15 freeway and looked off into like the Poway area and saw some smoke coming up. They did end up knocking that one down pretty quick. There was a few others that popped up around the city, but San Diego kind of, they had resources in place. My brother's a firefighter, and I was talking to him about it. They said they have like command posts where they have certain, trucks set up and just ready to go to jump on any of these fires that were happening. We didn't send too many firefighters up to those LA fires, like some of the big California fires. San Diego firefighters will go to these different areas and go fight those. During this time, I think they kept a lot of resources local just to kind of keep that safety within San Diego.
So if you are buying a home that's in a little bit more risky spot, a little bit more susceptible to fires, there is a fire hardening inspection report that will be required either for the buyer or seller to take care of. And this kind of just gives you the plan for fire hardening. So if it's covering eaves or if it's knocking down brush a little bit further out, some of those things are on this report.
And one way we've had success when clients are moving out here is referring them to a few insurance brokers we work with that are going to look at a few different policies around to get you different price points, different, actually shop around the policy and actually help you get the best value that you can for these insurance policies right here in San Diego.
Part of the climate here also in San Diego is we have a marine layer. So as amazing as having the ocean right next to us is, sometimes it brings fog. Not sometimes. A lot of times it brings fog.
Especially in the coastal zones.
Yeah, so those coastal zones, your Mission Beach, Ocean Beach, Encinitas, Solana Beach, La Jolla, a lot of our coastal cities get that marine layer year-round. Not that it's every day, not that it's all day every day, but they do tend, especially in some of the months like May gray, June gloom, you'll hear those thrown around a lot out here. You will have a marine layer for at least maybe till 11, maybe till noon. And some days it sticks around all day. And so it really just depends on what the weather's doing and all that. But getting used to not as thick a fog as like if you're thinking Northern California or anything like that, but fog does stick around a little bit here.
And a lot of times here in San Diego too, yes, we do have a Mediterranean climate, which I was looking it up. It said only like 2% of the US has, not even the US, the world has this Mediterranean climate where it's very temperate all the time, where it's never too hot, it's never too cold, which is awesome. But we did get a comment that said we were making a pros and cons about Carlsbad, talking about the weather a little bit, and they said it's damn cold in Carlsbad right now. So it does get chilly, definitely during the night times, definitely during the winter times. It cools off where it's getting 40, 45 throughout the evenings and stuff. So it's usually beautiful as your sun's coming up. It's nice, gets warmer, kind of peaks out through the midday, and then as you go into evening, it cools off. So it's always good. Just bring layers. I'm gonna say, kind of during all times, even during summers, it could get a little cooler during those evenings. It's not gonna get cold, so you guys are gonna call us wimps and stuff.
Look at the two little sissies.
Which we are. We are for sure.
You'll hear San Diegans. Chris said we were wimps. We are wimps for sure. San Diegans will complain about 40 degrees. That's cold to San Diegans. That's just what it is. I mean, it's -10 in some parts of the U.S. right now, so I don't think there's a ton of complaints to go around.
Yeah, it's raining out here right now, and it's actually it's not a cold day, but it's another thing. We do get rain. I mean, that's why we're supposed to film outside today, but hey, we got a little rain going on. Another thing about climate and being here in San Diego with that weather, with year-round, is sometimes we do get seasonal allergies. And I just read that San Diego had the highest number of high grass pollen days for 2024. I think it was about 216 days. So some of these days, yeah, you're gonna get grass throughout the day. There's gonna be certain times, especially when those Santa Anas blow in sometimes, where you do get these allergies, stuff blowing off trees in this. You get, what are the liquid amber trees?
Liquid ambers, yeah, when they're blooming. Yeah. Pine trees when they're blooming.
Yeah, you're just going to find it. There's definitely some allergies here for sure. And we did rank number one. We're number one in grass pollens.
The next con is limited job opportunities outside the three main sectors. Those sectors being healthcare, military, and biotech. So obviously those three sectors, we've helped a bunch of people in the military, a bunch of people coming here for big biotech companies, and also healthcare. So we've had a lot of doctors and nurses move out this way as well. So obviously a lot of job opportunity in those spots, but outside of that, there's not a ton of other job opportunity. There are a few kind of hubs for some tech companies. Apple has a couple of campuses out this way. There's also Qualcomm here and a lot of those Qualcomm companies as well. So there are some tech jobs. There are some other jobs kind of sprinkled around the county, but there's not as much as other areas of California.
Viasat up in Carlsbad is they have a huge campus up there. Is it like telecom?
Yep.
Telecommunications and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily, if you're not in one of those categories and you're relocating for a job, obviously you already know those are probably out there. It's just dependent on where you want to live compared to where the job is, because there's a few main hubs where actually all of these companies are located. So within each city you'll find like a main commercial district, but Carlsbad right around Palomar Airport has a big commercial district. Once you get to like Sorrento Valley, you're going to find a big one. Kind of a little bit south where Kearney Mesa, you're going to find one. There's a smaller one up in Rancho Bernardo. And then downtown as well is where you'll find, obviously we're going to compare our downtown to like others. It's very small, but we do have a lot of the businesses down there as well. And according to recent research from the Milken Institute, San Diego actually dropped about 34 spots from last year to 71st as far as best performing U.S. cities. And one of the biggest rankings is jobs. And so they've seen a bigger number of people or jobs leaving San Diego for like short-term jobs, but also some of the tech industry has left San Diego. So we do have smaller tech industry here. Even right in Encinitas, there's a bigger company called Flock Freight where they took over this old, it used to be the Nixon Watch building. It used to be a lumberyard back in the day, but it was like, it's a tech company located like literally downtown Encinitas with, they're a huge company. So you will find like little spots like that. And we have friends living here too who are in the tech industry, but they work remotely. So then maybe they have to, like I got a buddy and I believe their hub is up in LA. So he might have to go up there once in a while. But other than that, like he's working from home, he's working from his office down here, that kind of thing. So there is some opportunity for that as well.
And a lot of the reach outs we're getting, a lot of people that are getting in touch with us, that is why they're moving to San Diego, is just lifestyle. So they have a remote job that allows them to be anywhere, whether they don't have to go in the office at all, or they have to go in for a certain amount of days every week or month. We do have a lot of folks moving out here for that reason too.
Number 4 on the con list is the constant tourist-like feeling you do have right here living in San Diego. Obviously, it's a big destination for tourism. You're going to find it year-round. Now, summers, it's going to get a little busier. That's when the beaches are getting a little busier. That's when all the downtown areas are getting a little busier. But it's year-round. You're going to find going out and about pretty much any time of the year, there's going to be tourists out. And certain areas are going to have a little bit more of a feel of tourism once you get off these main strips. So North County, we're thinking like the Carlsbad Village. Encinitas, you have, even though Encinitas isn't very touristy, you'll find a lot of tourists flocking to the beaches there and to kind of the coastal zone there. Once you get into Del Mar, during race season, all that kind of stuff. As you go further south, a lot of people go into La Jolla's and downtowns and all those areas down there. So you'll find little hubs. As you go in a little bit further, there's going to be some little areas, but for the most part, a lot of these coastal areas are where you get the biggest feeling of that. And with that tourism, a lot of this adds to, if you're going out and about, you're going to local restaurants, you're going to local events, you're going to have, sometimes longer wait times. You're going to have sometimes busier traffic times, especially during the track season down at Del Mar, off the freeway, kind of Via de la Valle, that whole section in Del Mar. You're going to see it's a little bit busier than usual. As far as restaurants, and I mentioned it's kind of like this all the time. We were at a soccer practice. Got done with that the other day. Ended up going to like a little pizza spot in Carlsbad. And if you go later than like 5:30 is pushing it, a lot of these coastal areas, you're going to find you're going to have a wait. We were waiting. We had a kind of an odd number. It was like 7 people, 4 kids, 3 adults, whatever it was. But it was still like a 45-minute wait. Kids were going crazy. It wasn't the best ideal situation, but you will find that in a lot of coastal regions here.
And we did something kind of similar, went out with another family. So there was a party of 8, but we were a little more inland. We were at a restaurant in kind of the northeast side of San Marcos, and we walked right in and got a table. So that coastal section is definitely where you feel a lot more of that tourism, a lot more of those crowds going to restaurants.
And one other thing about the coastal zones and the beaches, and yeah, summer times, you're going to get crazy busy. You're going to find some beautiful weekends throughout the year where there's not many people out. It's going to be beautiful. Go and walk down the beach. It's 75 in December. It's going to be awesome. One thing we do have here after probably like September, October-ish, we call it local summer. It's when a lot of the tourist season has ended, the main tourism season. And we get into a summertime where beaches are a little less crowded, the coastal zones are a little less crowded, and it's kind of like a little bit of a breather, a little bit of our own little summer here, right here in San Diego.
Next up is the high housing demand and competition. Obviously, this was kind of at the peak, 2021, 2022, 2023 even, where competition was nuts. There was, news reports of 50 people outside of open houses. There were 15 to 25 offers on most houses out there. That has definitely slowed a bit. But San Diego as a whole will always have a high demand for housing. There's not a ton of new construction. There's not a lot of land left. So every bit of housing that's out there is kind of out there. I mean, you'll see little developments here and there, but for the most part, that level of housing that we have now is not going to grow significantly. So there's always going to be that kind of high demand for the housing that's actually out there.
And over these past few years, we've seen the home prices go up dramatically. We've had clients who were looking before have had to change their search, look in different areas, maybe switch from single family to townhome, which we'll get into that in a little bit too, the difference between townhome and condo, what you typically think of those. In January 2025, Redfin did a survey of the median mortgage right here in San Diego, and it ended up being about $6,000. That was on a purchase price or a median home price of about $905,000. So that's taking into account when the single family homes as well as condos. If you separate them out a little bit, townhomes are going to be a little bit less than that. Home prices, median home price for single family homes is going to be a little bit above that. But there is still people that we've seen that have had to shift over time. And there's different areas, like as you're looking at these and you've been out and you've checked out San Diego and you're like, I want to live in this specific area. It's really good to reach out to us and figure out, okay, maybe it's not that area. I mean, maybe that area is for you, but maybe you're not comfortable with the price points there. We can point you in a few different directions that will work for you, give you a few other options right here in San Diego. So if we didn't scare you away yet, what is good? What are the pros about living right here in San Diego? One of the big pros a lot of people might not think about is the food and beverage scene right here in San Diego. First, starting with the local food scene right here, the local farms. San Diego has a huge number of local farms, especially as you go to some of the outskirts, some of the more rural areas right here in San Diego. I think San Diego has the most like neighborhood / local farms in any city within the United States. We'll fact check that. I'll double check on that one. But with that comes farmers markets. With that comes local produce, local food. Obviously, we live near the ocean, so local seafood. There's local, what is it, spiny lobster season?
Yep.
Spiny lobster season. You'll see people going out there grabbing some spiny lobster. There's just all kinds of local food right here in San Diego. With the farmers markets, you're going to find one in pretty much every city right here. And all of them are going to be different times, different days. So if you miss one, you can go hop to the next city, going in Carlsbad and going down into everywhere from Carlsbad all the way Oceanside too. They have the Sunset Market up there. And down right near downtown San Diego, the Little Italy Mercado in 2023 ranked as the 4th best farmers market in all of the United States. I think it was USA Today did that. But you're going to find a lot of these throughout different sections of San Diego.
And not even just farmers markets, but you'll see farm stands. You'll see just a group that pulls their pickup truck out and has fresh local fruits and vegetables as well. Recently, we just stopped and grabbed a huge carton of strawberries and a huge bag of avocados for $5 instead of $2.50 each. So that's around town a lot. You'll see that, and is a great opportunity.
Yeah, and with all the farms and all that, a lot of the restaurants and that kind of thing, you're going to find like farm to table menu options and that kind of thing where they're sourcing as much local stuff as they can right around in San Diego.
Also, part of the food scene, obviously, there are a ton of highly rated restaurants here. From whatever taste you're looking for, too, there's a lot of different options. Obviously, Chris mentioned seafood is huge here, but there's also just a lot of other options for food here. Mexican food, obviously, is a giant positive here in San Diego. But one of the other things, too, that we're really well known for is the craft beer scene. So, obviously, some of the original craft breweries, the big craft breweries, Stone, Green Flash, some of those, Carl Strauss, a lot of those big ones started here, right here in San Diego, and are, for the most part, still around and kicking. But there's also a ton of smaller breweries. Some of our favorites are Pure Project, Virgin, and Carlsbad is by far one of our favorites. And there's a ton more to explore.
Craft Coast is another great one.
Yes.
They're expanding right here in North County. A lot of the ones we hit up, we'll go back to our bubbles, are going to be North County ones. There's a ton down like a little bit further south. There's a ton even like downtown San Diego and the surrounding areas from there. But we're focused on North County because there's a ton up here. But Craft Coast, they have their OG spot in Oceanside. They just expanded to where this guy lives in San Marcos. They're coming to Encinitas this year. Really good birria tacos. What's the ones that you get? Not the burrito, the little quesadilla things. Molitas. Maybe it's Molitas. But either way,
Yeah.
delicious food. Really good beer. One of the best Baja lagers right here in San Diego. And then for you coffee lovers, even us, we love coffee too. We're in the decaf boat now, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I still drink coffee every morning. It's just decaf. You can find decaf in a lot of these good spots too. Sometimes some like craft, or what do you call it, like small origin decaf.
Yeah.
It's not just like, the Starbucks decaf kind of thing. So anyways, the coffee scene right here in San Diego is pretty big. You're going to find all kinds of different coffee shops. You're going to find like local coffee chains, Better Buzzes and stuff. have been expanding throughout San Diego. There's new coffee companies coming in. So you're going to find a lot of that, and they're all kinds of different vibes, like kind of the old surf shack style to like kind of fancy, and you know, it's like really, I don't know, how do you say, like
High end, like
high end coffee, I guess. I'm kind of in the more in the surf shack / like middle ground.
coffee.
Coffee. Yeah, great one here in Leucadia. There's just all kinds of stuff. And according to a Wallet Hub, they ranked San Diego in 2024 as number 10 for their food scene in all of the United States, with all of the local food and some of the stuff we're going to talk about here in a little bit. The second pro is going to be access to outdoors and nature and kind of getting outside, living that outside lifestyle right here in San Diego. One big thing is hiking. Now, when you think about hiking, a lot of our hikes around here, I like to call them suburban hiking, where maybe it's off of a neighborhood. I'm thinking like actually a lot of them that I've been to. So I've been hiking and trying all these different trails recently. And some you'll get off the court, you know, you get out of the neighborhood, you'll park, and then you kind of feel like you're outside, there's nothing around. Maybe once you get at the top of the hill, you get to see, you know, the city and that kind of thing. But some, like Calavera Hills up in Carlsbad, you literally like park in the neighborhood, you walk off, you're like, you can see the houses the whole time. So it's not like getting lost in nature. They're beautiful views, they're beautiful hikes, awesome trails to get outside in a lot of these spots. But a lot of it's going to be, like I said, that suburban hiking. As you go to the east, you're going to find some more hiking, especially as you go into the mountains right here in San Diego. So get away from the coastal inland areas. You're going to find some awesome spots out there where you can get lost. You can get out there quite a ways. There's a ton of trails out there. There's a ton of mountains out there. There's a ton of areas to explore out there. But a lot of times you're just going to the closest area that you could find by your house. So even where I live, there's a bunch of different trails around, and just finding like new, maybe it's only like a half-mile trail, maybe it's a 1.5 mile trail, you know, they're shorter, they're longer, whatever. There's just a bunch of different little areas and different hikes to explore. Recently, I went up to Dixon Lake up in Escondido, and there's Daly Ranch out there. There's Cowles Mountain, there's Black Mountain. And I've noticed a lot of these too. I usually go hiking on Sundays. I'll try to get out there, you know, leave my house at 6, get out there by 6:30, 7:30 at the latest. And by this time, when I went to Daly Ranch, they have a decent sized parking lot. It was completely full. Just goes to show you and the trails were full, and they're not full, but you see a lot of people passing out there. There's a lot of mountain bikes and stuff too. So you just see a lot of people doing these same activities that you. I thought I'd be up early enough, but a lot of trails get used a lot, especially some of the more popular ones, but you can still find some trails that are a little more hidden and a little bit less accessible.
So within San Diego too, there are some neighborhoods that are kind of built within trails or built trails within the community. Chris mentioned Calavera Hills, kind of on one of the sides of the community is where you'll find a lot of the trails. But like San Alejo Hills and San Marcos, you have kind of those trails that go around houses, kind of down to the schools. But then also you have some that go kind of back out towards Elfin Forest and Harmony Grove, where you're not seeing a ton of homes.
And you don't necessarily need to go inland for these trails. Sometimes you're going to find some coastal trails. So Torrey Pines is a really big one, really popular one. Even around the San Alejo Lagoon, they recently revamped it, connected a lot of trails so you could do like a full loop. It's on the border of Cardiff and Solana Beach. So you will find a lot of coastal areas too where you can do some of this hiking.
There are also a ton of parks and open space. You'll hear us talk about Carlsbad a lot. Carlsbad just has a ton of open space left over and a lot of parks. So Alga Norte, Meseta Community Park, there are some really cool, huge parks that have a ton of amenities.
Real quick, somebody did make a comment about the only parks they found were like all pavement and stuff like that. It's like, you got to explore a little more. There's a ton of parks. Yeah, they're kind of manicured. Some are, you know, you're going to find ball fields. You're going to find like, you know, nice little grass area. So it's not like nature parks really.
But there are some of those too. So
yeah,
like,
there are a handful.
Like San Diego Park is the one that
there you go.
Yeah, in kind of the border of Solana Beach and Rancho Santa Fe, which has hiking, open space, some cool lookouts, but then has a playground and parking lots and all that stuff too. So there is a big mix. We also have Balboa Park, which is maybe the biggest park in San Diego. It has museums, it has a botanic gardens, it has the zoo right next door. So some of those parks.
There's also a hike down there too. It's called like Seven Bridges hike. I don't know. It's on my list anyway. So.
And then as you go a little bit closer to the coast, you have Mission Bay, which there are a ton of parks and beach spots kind of all around Mission Bay too.
And going with the outdoor theme, and one reason that a lot of people do move to San Diego is for the coast, for the beaches. San Diego has over 70 miles of coastline. And so you're going to find a bunch of different areas and a bunch of different vibes at different beaches. As you get into some beaches, especially like Encinitas, a lot of the beaches are bluffs. So there's not a ton of access. There's a few main areas where you have Moonlight Beach. You can go north or south. There's some areas where you have stairs going down. As you go down to like Pacific Beach, that's one of the busier beaches because that's like the 8 freeway dumps off right almost into Pacific Beach and Ocean Beach. So you a lot of folks coming from inland end up there where you do have a little bit wider beaches. You have the pier down there. You have a little bit more of that typical wide beach where you do have a little bit more space. As you go into like Sunset Cliffs, it's literally like cliffs and then ocean. You're not really hanging out down there too much. As you go up into like Oceanside, you're gonna find another big stretch as you get into the harbor. Some areas you're gonna find like houses right on the beach. So there's all kinds of different beaches right here. As you're living here too, you're gonna find the beaches that you're digging, especially if you have kids. You're gonna find the beaches that are easiest access with bathrooms where you're not parking, you're not having to haul a bunch of stuff. You're getting, you know, basically parking right on the beach. We have a few. Hit us up if you guys want to know where those are. Usually when you're living here, back to Bubbles, we're gonna keep tying back to that. But the best beach is usually one of the closest beaches to you. So you're not really going to go explore. If you're living in North County, you're probably not going to go down to Pacific Beach to hang out at the beach or La Jolla or anything like that. And if vice versa, if you're living in La Jolla, you're likely not going to come up to Encinitas or Solana Beach to hang out at the beach. You're going to go to your local beaches, right? Even inland, like what's the straightest shot down to the beach? That's likely where you're going to end up. So beaches here, yes, their water's cold a lot of the years. But you're going to find some beautiful days, even in December's, even during the winter times, when we do have less of that tourism season and just these gorgeous days just to hang out on the beach.
TripAdvisor just released its world's best beaches, and a San Diego beach came in number 5, and that's La Jolla Cove. Not the most traditional beach, so you're not going to go and kind of lounge in the sand. It is just a cool little cove where there's a ton of snorkeling. Actually, some of the best snorkeling in San Diego. You've got kelp forests, you've got ton of Garibaldis, some leopard sharks moving over from the La Jolla Shores area.
Is Garibaldi
our state fish?
State fish?
Yeah, state
Boom.
fish.
There we go.
Looks like a giant goldfish. If somebody says, "Mommy, there's a goldfish," nope, it's a Garibaldi.
There we go.
But we also have some kind of unconventional. So that beach, like I said, is kind of unconventional, but a really cool spot to check out. Even just walking around that La Jolla Cove area is gorgeous. But there's also some spots where you can have bonfires on the beach. There's spots in Carlsbad, spots in La Jolla. And that's a really cool experience. There's also Coronado has movies on the beach, so the Hotel Del puts on, and anybody in the public can get tickets for that as well. So movies right on the sand, really cool. We've done that in the past.
In Coronado also, for the last, actually we missed last year, but this year and then 2 years ago, we went down to, during Christmas time, they had the ice rink down there, and they had like these little hut igloos that you could rent out. And they have a little bonfire set up where the kids can roast some marshmallows. So they have little events like that too. A lot in Coronado. I'm trying to think of other elsewhere, but the huge event. I mean, obviously touristy. That place was busy. That place was crazy packed, especially during the holidays. But it was a super fun event as well. And we also have a few spots in North County, San Diego, where you can go camping basically on the beach. So you have Carlsbad campgrounds. You have the Cardiff campgrounds. You're right on the beach. If you can get like a bluff front one. The other ones are kind of on the coast highway. But you go there, especially Cardiff, like go get some pizza right across the street. You get some,
Have it delivered too.
Have it delivered.
Yeah.
Get some donuts right at VG right there. It's awesome. So it's camping. You're on the beach. It's kind of not really camping, but nonetheless, it's an awesome option to have right here in San Diego.
So San Diego obviously has a ton of outdoors, but we're really close to a lot of things. As we speak, getting a little bit of rain, which means we're getting a little bit of snow. We have a lot of friends heading up to Mammoth, heading up to Big Bear this weekend. There's also mountains and desert, so a lot of great camping spots. Palomar Mountain, Idlewild, some of those spots. A lot of people that live in San Diego like those desert activities, so going out and camping in the desert, using those quads and those dune buggies out in the dunes. The next pro is it's pretty easy to get around San Diego. Yes, we have times where there's a little bit more traffic and it might take a little bit longer to get places, but the infrastructure is really good freeway-wise here in San Diego. You have the 5 freeway going north to south. You have the 15 going north to south. And then you have a lot of those connector freeways kind of from Oceanside. You have the 78. Then you have the 56 in the kind of Carmel Valley, Rancho Bernardo Poway area. Then you have the 52, which kind of takes you out towards Santee or takes you towards La Jolla. And then you have the 8, which kind of is cutting like Metro San Diego right in half and kind of dumping right into the kind of that Point Loma area, going out towards El Cajon, Alpine, all those spots out there. And we are going to get comments about being crazy about not the infrastructure here and traffic in San Diego. But if you go to LA or San Francisco, I lived there for 5 years, it is a nightmare compared to San Diego traffic wise. So in LA, every time it's torture going through LA. I mean, there's people that commute like 7 miles and it's an hour. So San Diego doesn't really have that. Yes, there are going to be traffic times where it's brutal, but it's not nearly as bad as other spots in California. And San Diego has done a great job, or the state has also done a great job of kind of mitigating some of these. The 5 freeway has had construction for the last
Ever.
ever.
Forever.
But
Still going, by the way.
yeah, but they've also added carpool lanes. They've widened freeways. They built a whole new bridge to widen the freeway kind of through Encinitas, and they're kind of still heading towards north to the 78. And that's kind of one of the big pinch points a lot of times is that 5 and 78 spot. And they're going to completely redo that area too. So yes, there's constant construction, but it is moving in the right direction. And with growth, with every city, if your freeways and roads and stuff aren't growing, it's going to get worse and worse. But San Diego, I feel like it's getting better and better.
In some freeways, as they grow, Cassie just said, the 78 kind of sucks. There's sometimes certain areas, certain pinch points, certain spots, Golden Triangle, 78, Twin Oaks, like where it's been growth, where the freeways have outgrown these areas, you're going to get that for sure. But it's only during certain times of day. It's not crazy. It's not taking you, like you said, hours to get anywhere, usually. Rush hour, maybe. But one of the biggest pros is all the back roads. So living here as locals our whole lives, we try to avoid the freeways as much as possible. Even if like you look at Google Maps or whatever, and it's like, hey, hop on, go down here, hop on the 5 freeway, hop off, go this way. Or you could take the other route. It's going to take 7 minutes longer. I'm taking the 7-minute longer route.
100%.
It's so much nicer cruising through. Like if we're going from like North County to, even going to central San Diego or anywhere in there, there's a ton of different ways to get around. So finding all these little back roads, there's also roads that you're going to find as you're living here that are like as big as freeways, like 4 lanes wide, that go through like these cities and stuff that kind of cut through. There are some of the main roads. El Camino Real, I could think of one right now in North County, San Diego. Rancho Santa Fe. Yeah, where they're bigger roads. So there's cooler ways to get around. But then there's also like little side roads going through Rancho Santa Fe's and all these different areas to get around.
I just went to my barber last week. Shout out John Q Public. And it is a ways for me. So I live in San Marcos. It's all the way up in Oceanside. I could take the freeway, but I never do. I always just head straight to the coast on Palomar Road, head up, drive through Carlsbad, check out all the beaches. And it is so much better than jumping on the freeway. So one con within the pro is you're going to need a car, regardless of where you're living in San Diego. There is a little bit of public transportation, but it's not a major factor here like it is in some other bigger cities. We have the coaster that goes down north-south from Oceanside, Carlsbad, Solana Beach, down to downtown San Diego. And we have friends that have been doing it forever. One of my buddies has been doing it for 15 years, just drives to Carlsbad, takes the coaster down in the morning to work. It's a good time to get stuff done. It's only about 45 minutes and just takes some of that car time out of your daily life. But also you have some trolley systems. So once you're in downtown, there's some trolley systems that get you in and around town there. There's also a new trolley system that gets you in and around UCSD area. So there's not a ton of public transportation, but what we do have is pretty usable.
Now we do have all of the positives that we have already talked about, but a lot of people here, since we do have weather, you're going to find a lot of outdoor gatherings. You're going to find local community events, concerts in the parks, movies in the parks, throughout all these little different sections of San Diego. So like certain cities will have their own, like Carlsbad has movies in the park, TGIF, throughout all their city parks. You're going to find that through other areas of San Diego as well. Also, just kind of hanging with your friends, having backyard barbecues, grilling up some tri-tip. If you guys don't know what tri-tip is, you got to have it. Cardiff Crack right here in Cardiff is some delicious marinated meat. Cut it up, put it on tacos, eat it. I don't know, just eat it right off there. You don't even need a taco for it. But all in all, San Diego is pretty darn laid back.
And even though San Diego has that laid back lifestyle, it's not like everybody's not getting their work done. We're definitely out hustling. We're real estate agents. We're out working for our clients every day. But do we maybe sometimes cut off a little early on a Saturday or a Friday, go grab a beer with a couple of buddies? Yes, we do. But for the most part, it is a hardworking city. It's just a little bit more laid back, and people are really focused on kind of that lifestyle, getting out, like making part of your day. Like we've over the last bunch of years tried to, like for me specifically, tried to get a walk in the middle of the day, like getting out in the sunshine for a little bit and just making that part of your day. You see a lot of people. If you go downtown San Diego, if you go to the Village in Carlsbad, you'll see people out and about midday just because they've integrated it into what they're doing on a daily basis.
And a lot of people who have reached out, who are moving out here and do want that lifestyle, do want that vibe. Maybe they're coming from somewhere that's kind of not like that. But San Diego has, besides us, we're the only two locals you're going to find in San Diego. There's like, as you're moving out here, you'll notice that a lot of people are from all over the place. So a lot of transplants. My wife is from Jersey. My friends are from Philly. Go Eagles, go Birds. But there's just a lot of people from a different area. Sorry, he's a Bills fan too, so he's a little bummed about that. But nonetheless, just even the attire, like what we're wearing is pretty laid back. Sometimes if we're going on showings and stuff, Cassie's going to be rocking a hat. I might be rocking a hat. We depend if it's hot out. Maybe we have some flip flops on. We try not to, but sometimes it happens. So the attire just cruise around. It's a very informal dress code. Is that even called a dress code?
Athleisure wear.
Athleisure wear.
Here.
Yeah. Viore, who started here in San Diego. You'll see everybody rocking Viore.
Part of my daily uniform.
Yeah. It's that, and that's kind of like what people are wearing. You're not really seeing a ton of suit and ties. You're not seeing a ton of that super formal wear right here in San Diego.
We mentioned earlier as a con the competitiveness of housing here in San Diego, but one of the pros is the kind of just diversity of types of housing and neighborhoods here in San Diego. So obviously we have a huge, beautiful coastline of a lot of really cool communities, but you also have some inland communities that have their own little feel, and kind of throughout the city, every kind of neighborhood has its own feel, its own vibe. A bunch of little surf towns. Obviously, when you think surf towns, you've got Encinitas, you have Solana Beach, you have La Jolla, some of those spots, PB, a lot of those. But then there's also just some really cool spots, and Vista is one that comes up quite a lot as just a neat little spot, cool little feel. Or like down south, you have some other cool spots like in Poway, you've got more of that like equestrian, rural feel. So San Diego as a whole just has a lot of diverse types of areas to check out on top of condos versus townhome. You know, you have condos which are a little more traditional. You have maybe a couple neighbors above you or below you, where townhome you might have just one on each side. And then you have a ton of different types of detached houses. You have master plan communities where it's a little bit more cookie cutter. You have a lot of cool communities like Rancho Santa Fe, where you have big, custom, beautiful homes. So there is just a ton of diverse housing.
And with all these areas where you don't just have these super expensive coastal areas, you do have some of the inland areas that are a little more affordable. The median price, as we were making this video, for single family homes is about $1,029,000. So you will think, you know, if you're looking online, you're looking at different areas, you're looking at the coast potentially, you're finding like $2-3 million properties. As you go to certain different areas, you're going to find different price points where it is a little bit more affordable. And even in getting into the median price point for condos, it's about $675. So even more affordable. And what are the point on condos versus townhomes? You have condos where you're thinking like big high rise. You're thinking where you got, you know, maybe just a patio, if that. Right here in San Diego, a lot of they're condos still in tax record, but we call them townhomes, where you might share a wall or two. But a lot of these do have some outdoor space. They might have a little yard. They might have, I mean, all of them usually have a patio. They might have an attached 2-car garage. So it lives a little bit more like a single family home. So that could definitely be an option if you were thinking that, and the price points are just going to make more sense at that townhome style. There's certain areas that's going to work better for you. So if you guys are thinking about moving out here, it's super important to know what's going on. And if you want to learn all about San Diego, we have a full map video that's popping up right now, San Diego 101. Go check that out. We dive into all those areas and give you a good idea of what to expect right here in San Diego.